Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to continue the lecture series that we have started on Rūpa. I'll be giving the lecture today in a different location because I have visited Colombo for some activities. So you have seen a different location, different setup for this talk, and I'll be using a manual whiteboard to explain the teachings. So far we have, if we remind what we have done so far, at the moment we are in the section of Chittaja Rūpas. We have discussed what Chittaja Rūpas are and also some important factors regarding them, especially the Chittas that produce Chittaja Rūpas, and also about the Chittaja Kalapas, those Rūpas, Chittaja Kalapas and Chittaja Santatis in the previous lecture. Today's lecture would be about the capacity, knowing about the capacity of Chittaja Rūpas. What sort of activities that Chittaja Rūpas can perform? What is their capacity? Ability, I would call. In that sense, we can also say this ability, we can bestow this ability to the Chitta by which the Chittaja Rūpas are produced, because our activities are mainly done by the Chittaja Rūpas, and those Chittaja Rūpas are produced by a certain Chitta. So in the end, if we look into the karmic aspect, the actions were done by the Chitta, and Chittaja Rūpas have become a sort of an instrumental thing in executing the activities. So we are specifically referring to physical and verbal activities. For the mental activities, Chittaja Rūpas are not that much relevant. But in terms of meditation and all, sometimes in order to maintain the posture, Chittaja Rūpas do participate in this activity in one way or another. So today's what we are going to do is, today we are going to classify the Chittaja Rūpas based on their activities, based on their capacities actually. So in this regard, first we need to understand there are few types of Chitta classifications in this regard. First is, we should know there are Viti Mutta Chittas. Viti Mutta Chittas are the Patisandhi, Bhavanga. Very sorry for the inconvenience. There was an electricity drop down. So yes. So we were talking about the Chittas, Chittaja Rūpa, the capacity of Chittaja Rūpa. So in order to explain that, we have to first understand what sort of Chittas produce such and such Chittaja Rūpas. So in order to do that, we have to classify the Chittas into few categories. First is the Viti Mutta Chittas. Viti Mutta Chittas are the Patisandhi Bhavanga Chutti Chittas that arise in one's life. So Patisandhi Chitta does not produce any Chittaja Rūpa, if you remember. Chutti Chittas do not produce any Chittaja Rūpas according to the Mula Tika. Then these Bhavanga Chittas are the ones which produce Chittaja Rūpas among the Viti Mutta Chittas. So they do produce Chittaja Rūpas. Chittaja Rūpas. Then it is mentioned that these Chittaja Rūpas do not, for example, there are three categories in this regard, another three categories. Rūpas which can change the posture that was kept in by the previous Chittas. Now for example, if I am standing, now I starts to move. So this movement, the Chittas, what they are doing is, they are changing the posture that was kept by the previously arisen Chittas. So some Chittas, the Chittaja Rūpas have the capacity to change the posture, break the posture that was in which already the body was, and then change it and bring it to a new posture. So that is the change the posture. Some Chittaja Rūpas can maintain the posture. Maintain. For example, if I go into a meditation, deep meditative state, I am not moving myself, but still my posture the sitting posture remains the same. So that means it is capable, because I sat with a different type of chitta, and while I am meditating I am having a different type of chitta. So those chittas in meditation are capable of maintaining my posture. So this is not only regarding the meditation. For instance, if we are focusing, standing and reading a book, we don't suddenly fall down, right? Because we are able to maintain our standing posture. So it means even though my consciousness is fully focused on reading the book and getting the essence of what has been written, the idea what has been written, those chittas are capable of maintaining the standing posture without letting the body to fall down. So that is called maintaining the posture. Then the things that cannot do neither these activities, cannot change the posture, cannot maintain the body, cannot maintain the posture. So such chittas, chittadrupas, produced by those chittas doesn't have none of these capacities. Another thing to mention, if certain chittadrupas can change the posture, obviously they can maintain the posture as well. So the chittadrupas there are chittadrupas that can only maintain the posture. Only maintain the posture. So with those chitta rupas, we are unable to change the posture. For example, think about the jhana, in which we are fully absorbed into the object. Such chittas are not capable of changing the posture, making a bodily movement or a verbal activity. So therefore, these are the three types of chittarupas regarding their capacity. Now what we are doing is, we are analyzing each and every chitta. What sort of chittadrupas they can produce. Can the bhavanga chittas produce chittadrupas which can change the posture? Can the bhavanga chittas produce chittadrupas which can maintain the posture? Or the chittadrupas produced by them can do neither of these activities. So that is the analysis that we are going to do today. So in this regard, we have drawn 4 types of chitta processes. Processes means lineages. These are the Viti Mutta, VM. Viti Mutta, they don't belong to any Viti. Then these are the Viti Chittas. If we start from we just give up the Bhavangas because they have been explained here. These are the Panchadwarika Viti, PV, Panchadwarika Viti. Then these are the Manodwarika Vitis, mind-door processes, MV, mind-door processes. Then we have another type of process which we call Appana processes, APV, Appana processes. They also belong to the group of mind-door processes, but they are they have some peculiar natures. So that's why we have to write them separately. So these are the 4 types of processes under which we are going to analyze what type of chittadrupas do each chitta produce. Then now regarding the change of the posture, that's a very important fact, change of the posture. Changing of posture can happen only with mind-door processes, Manodwarika Viti. The Bhavanga processes cannot change a posture kept by a previous chitta. That's why while we are at sleep, we don't make movements. Then the obvious question comes, sometimes while we are sleeping, we do change here and there, and some people do night sleepwalking and so forth. According to the Buddha's teachings, on such occasions, mind-door processes have to occur, have to happen. The Bhavanga lineage has to be temporarily suspended. Otherwise, there cannot be any such activity. So all the change of postures, whether we do intentionally or without much awareness, according to Buddhism, even while we do some activities during sleep, there is some awareness. We cannot be non-aware of something all the time, at any time, given time, except while we are in the Nirodha Samapatti and Asansatta. Even while sleep, there is some awareness which is not obvious to us. Then mind-door processes, they do, postures can be changed. But even here, the postures, Manodwara Vajjana, and we have 7 javanas. Some of you have not studied this, what are these 7 javanas, because we haven't done the Kicha Sangha yet. But first, for the time being, just keep in mind, the mind arises in processes that I have discussed many times before. So in these processes, there are some chittas called javana chittas, which are very powerful compared to the other chittas, which have a higher capacity in its, which a higher degree of power in its capacity, level of capacity. So these chittas are the javanas. So in this appana vitis, all these are javanas. All these are javanas, right? So these chittas are we sometimes translate them as dynamic consciousness, but it's better to say impulsive consciousness, but if you say they are the javanas, it's much better. Now, bodily movements, change of posture. Bodily movement means we change the posture. Movement means we are changing the posture that was there and coming into a new posture or coming into a change. So bodily movements can be done with the mind or process, and that's also the first few consciousnesses, not the tadalammanas. If I name this 1, 2 and 3, so these chittas can produce chittarupas of the first group. That means they can change the posture, obviously. And these chittas also have the capacity to maintain the posture. That's obvious. It doesn't mean that whenever these chittas happen, we are supposed to change the posture. Otherwise, we'll never be able to stay calm, right? So while we are meditating in the beginning, mind or processes are happening, but still our bodily posture is fully maintained as it was. So therefore, these chittas have the capacity to produce chittarupas that can change the posture and also which can maintain the posture that was already been kept by some previous chittas. Tadalammana chittas that are arising in, and then tadalammana chittas that are arising in mind or processes doesn't have that capacity of changing the postures. These chittas can only maintain the posture. They can maintain the posture, right? They can maintain the posture. Then the obvious question comes: don't they produce number 3 type of consciousness? 3 type of chittarupas. It means, for instance, what are these third type of chittarupas which doesn't do neither change the posture nor maintain the posture? Now, for example, if we are sitting, if we fall asleep, technically, according to teachings, bhavanga processes has happened. That's what we call falling asleep. So what happens when we fall asleep? When the bhavanga chittas are continuously arising without any viti chittas, our bodily posture breaks down. That's why we fall down. Our head falls down. Sometimes the entire body may fall down if we fall into a deep sleep. So therefore, this third type of chittarupas neither change the posture nor maintain the posture. So normally the bhavanga chittas only produce rupas of this group, third group. Bhavanga chittas cannot maintain the posture, nor they can change the posture. That's a very basic fundamental in Theravada teachings. But how about these manodvarika chittas, mind or processes? Sometimes they produce chittarupas that do not neither maintain nor change the posture? Yes. For example, while we are at dream, sometimes there are mind or processes occurring, but no movement, no maintaining of posture happens. It's like while we are lying down, some sort of weak chittas can happen, which doesn't have this capacity of even maintaining the postures. So, but the point is, the tadalammana chittas, these 2 chittas cannot produce number 1. They cannot change the posture of a living being. So that's the first thing that we need to understand. So in a mind or process, manodvara vajana chitta and javana chittas can change the posture if the intention was there, can maintain the posture, and sometimes when they are very weak, they may produce chittarupas which doesn't have none of the above 2 capacities. Then comes the bhavanga process. Obvious, it's only the chittarupas that can do nothing. Nothing means they do not produce, maintain the posture, nor they change the posture, right? So now then we come into these types of appana vitis. Appana vitis. In the appana vitis, these are the javana chittas, but while explaining the chitta rupas, we have to take them as a one unit, including the manodvara vajjana, which is ahetuka chitta. These chittas can only maintain the posture. They do maintain the posture. They never change the posture except in one occasion. That will come later to explain what is that. So except in one occasion. So these chittas do not change the posture. And they are always capable of maintaining the posture. It doesn't mean, so it means while we are in a very high absorption level in the mind, the body doesn't fall down as we are in sleep. So it's a very obvious thing. If you see someone falling down, if the neck falls down while meditating, it's an obvious sign that he or she has not entered into a jhana. Right? So the bodily posture, the change of the like the falling down of the limbs shows that the bhavanga process is continuously happening, or otherwise some sort of inability is occurring in the mind, that the mind is very weak, still the mind processes are going, but fully taken over by the bhavanga processes, that is abundantly happening, even though mind processes are happening here and there. Right? So these things, these appana vitis produce chittaja rupas, always produce chittaja rupas that can maintain the posture. But there is an exceptional case here, especially the abhinya chitta, iddhi vidha abhinyana. Iddhi vidha abhinyana. Iddhivida abhinyana can produce one and two both. Sometimes it change the posture, because especially while we are ascending to the sky in order to fly or do something, or going through some hard surface. So while performing such activities, the kaya vinyat, the bodily movements do happen. So iddhivida abhinyana sometimes do change the postures, but it's not necessary all the time, because sometimes while staying in one posture one can create some fire and so forth. These miracles can be done according to Dhamma. So in that regard it maintains the posture, but in other occasions while performing verbal activities or physical activities, it does change the posture. It has that capacity. Right? So this is the arpana vitis. The highlighted point is arpana vitis, except the iddhivida abhinyana in special cases, on the other times does not change the posture. So that's what does it mean? One cannot enter into a jhana while walking. Walking means a change of posture. Each and every step you are changing the posture. So since the appana jhanas are not capable of changing the posture, one is not capable of attaining into maintaining a jhana while walking. Then one can have a obvious question: aren't there cases where monks became arahants or attained maggapala while walking? Yes, that has happened. That is mainly during the process, during that viti of attainment, no physical bodily movement happens. For example, if he's lifting his leg and while keeping, in one moment, when the process is happening of attainment, enlightenment, that moment the whole body freezes. Actually, if we are able to analyze it very deeply, very sharply, the moment where the maggapala viti is happening, the whole body freezes. Freezes means there is no physical movement happening. Then immediately after a few vitis, the bodily movement starts to occur. Right? So what I said was, you cannot maintain a jhana. Maintaining a jhana means, or palasamapatti, the same chitta, appana chitta, is happening for a longer period. That's why we discussed in the last lecture the samapatti santati. That means chitta rupas that are happening in a samapatti while the appana chitta is occurring. So these chitta rupas, these santatis, samapatti santati, are not capable of changing the posture. So that's why vinyati rupas does not arise, kalapas does not arise due to them. So therefore, one cannot maintain a jhana, but obviously one can attain maggapala while walking, because it happens in a one mind process, and during the process the body is not moving, then immediately afterwards, with the mind or processes, we starts to keep on walking, right? So then comes some chittas. Now panchadvarika chittas. In this regard, panchadvarika chittas, it is said in the books that starting from Vattapana till the Tadalamana, can maintain the posture. They can maintain the posture. None of the 5-door processes can change the posture. It's not possible. Right? It's a very basic fundamental in Theravada teachings. None of the 5-door processes can change the posture, utter a word, understand something deeply, practice vipassana, or attain Maggaphala. None of them is possible in the 5 sense door processes. But starting from Vattapana till the end of the Tadalamana, it is said, now while before the 5 sense door process occurs, a mind door process normally follows, precedes. So it can produce, most of the cases, rupas which can maintain the posture, change the posture. So if a new posture has arrived at by the previous processes, these chittas of that process can maintain that posture. But they cannot produce, they cannot change the posture. Then if they are very weak, sometimes they may also not do any stuff, because it's possible, right? And then Chakku Vijnana, the 10 Vijnanas appearing in this place, do not produce any Chittajarupas, if you remember. They do not produce any Chittajarupas. Here in the processes we are talking about the Chittas that can produce Chittajarupas. If you remember, the Patisandhi Chitta and Chuti Chitta does not produce, and among the Bhavangas also, in this chart, the 4 Arupa Vipakas have to be excluded. They perform exclusive the Patisandhi Bhavanga Chuti Kichas, and they do not produce any Chittajarupas. So we are talking about the 15 Chittas that can perform the Bhavanga. Right? I hope we can understand this point. While we are talking the capacity of Chittajarupas, we have to exclude the Chittas that are not capable of producing any Chittajarupa. Right? Which are not capable of producing any Chittajarupa. So this Chakku Vijnana and all, they do not produce any Chittajarupas. Then the question comes, what about this Panchadvara, Vajana, Sampatichana and Santirana Chittas? What are they? What is their capacity? According to the information that we have in the literature, these 3 types of Chittas neither maintain the posture nor change the posture. So they are also producing only third type of rupas. That is to say, they do not maintain the posture. Nothing to say about changing the posture. Right? Nothing to say about changing the posture. They are very weak Chittas. So what happens is, now if a posture was maintained by a previous mind process, during these 4 consciousnesses and also the Bhavanga processes that occurred between them, that posture is not maintained. Since the mind is rapidly happening, starting from Vattapana, it is consciousness is capable of maintaining the posture. So it seems very strange because if the Bhavanga process occurs for a few long time between the 2 processes, easily it can affect our bodily posture. It may affect our bodily posture. Right? So therefore, yes, according to the teachings, according to the books, information that we have in books, this Panchadvara, Vajana, Sampatichana and Santirana Chittas do produce Chittajarupas, obviously, but they do not maintain the posture. Nothing to say about changing the posture. Right? Chakku Vijnana, 10 Vijnanas do not produce any rupas. That is also a very basic fundamental. So this is the entire chart. I think I have done it. So another point that what we need to emphasize is, now think about this maintaining the posture. Maintaining the posture doesn't require the attention or the intention of maintaining it. But think about the changing of postures. Changing of postures always happens with the intention. Even while I'm moving my hand while giving a talk, obviously according to teachings, while I'm talking, my mind or processes does involve in uttering the speech, words. At the same time, a different mind or process proceeds and make this movement. But it seems like both are happening at the same time. Both are happening at the same time. But since the mind is very rapid, very fast, different processes are used for all these different activities. According to teachings, any verbal activity, any physical activity is done with an intention. Whether we can remember that activity or not, or whether we are fully aware of it or not is a different case. But the intention is there. So they are deliberate activities. But think about the activity done by the number 2 type of Chitta Rupas, that is maintaining the posture. For that we don't need any intention. We don't need any intention. While I am talking, I am fully focused on my speech, but I forget about my posture normally. But the body still remains. Scientifically, there can be different explanations on this, but I am talking in terms of Dhamma. There is no intention, there is no focus, there is no intention of maintaining this posture, but automatically it happens to maintain. Why is that? Even though my mind or processes while talking are fully focused on the utterance of speech and thinking about what should I do in the next moment, they are producing some side of Chitta Rupas within the whole body like air. It's actually abundance of air is there, air element. This air element maintains this posture like a balloon that is filled with air, sometimes can stay straight. So why doesn't it collapse? Because the air is pressing to all the directions. So the balloon can, some air tube can remain in its stance. So likewise, since some Chitta Rupas one sort of Chitta Rupas are occurring in the entire body of the speaker, though he is not aware or though he is not intended to maintain the posture, automatically the posture will be maintained. But suddenly if these Chittas that produce number 3 types of Rupas arises frequently, it means, because if you look into the Vitis, every Viti has some Chittas that can produce, that can maintain the posture. So these are exceptional cases. These 3 are exceptional. Like they may sometimes produce Chitta Rupas that cannot do any activity. That is exceptional. But most of the cases, if I can draw it within the parentheses, then it will be much clearer. So these are the type of Chitta Rupas that mostly occur in us. Right? So every Viti contains Rupas that can maintain the posture. That can maintain the posture. So if we are aware, if we are awake, normally the posture is maintained. Because awakeness means, according to Buddha's teachings, arising of mind processes. Sleep is the continuation of the Bhavanga process. If the Bhavanga process starts to continue abundantly, posture is not maintained, the body comes into a peaceful state. And if someone was standing, either he will lean into a wall and eventually fall down in most of the cases, right? So, but in sitting, what happens? Since the posture is not maintained, he may fall down. Fall down means either he will fall down fully, or otherwise the neck will fall down. But then what happens is still the posture is maintained. The neck has fallen down, the body may still sit. That is because of the Utuja Rupas. Our body, now for example, even a tree, if it falls down, like if even it dies, still it remains, right, in its posture, for some time without falling down. So likewise, the body of the living, our bodies, though during the sleep, though the head may fall down, the neck may fall down, but still due to the Utuja Rupas in our body, a certain bodily stance will be maintained, sitting posture will be maintained. But that rarely happens in standing, because since it's the gravitational point is different in such a posture, it very easily falls down, right? While we are sitting, it's a different case. So because of our legs are spread and we are sitting in the sitting posture, it can hold the pressure and the person may still remain in the posture while the neck and everything has fallen down, right? So therefore, if suddenly these chittas occur, we may, the posture is broken means is not maintained. So now regarding these number 1 type of chitta rupas, which can change the posture. What does it indicate? Which can change the posture. If a chitta can change, chitta rupas can change the posture, they can surely maintain the posture as well, right? And sometimes, very rarely, if the chitta is very weak, they may produce some chitta rupas that are not capable of doing that. Possibility is there. Maintaining the posture, yes, some of them, not the appana chittas, some of them may not maintain the posture in a sick moment or while we are in a deep dreaming moment, right? Exceptional thing. So the bhavanga, the other rupas, which are of the third category, do not maintain the posture, right? So what I did was, these chitta, some chitta rupas, if a chitta rupa has the capacity, number one, to change the posture, that also has the capacity to maintain the posture, right? So yeah. What I mean was, if any chitta, I have to correct it, if any chitta has the capacity to change the posture, it means it also has the capacity to produce chitta rupas that can maintain the posture, right? And sometimes it may produce chitta rupas that may not maintain the posture as well. Now, changing the posture, number one, what does it mean? Number one type of rupas. These rupas are mainly the kalapas with viññati. With viññati. Kalapas with viññati. What viññati is the kaya viññati? Kaya viññati. Then what about vachi viññati? Vachi viññati doesn't make any movement, bodily movement, because while we are speaking, I shall be talking about these two rupas in another few weeks after we have finished certain capacities of the chitta rupas. While we are speaking, our bodily movements are done by the kaya viññati, not the vachi viññati, because we have to expand and close our mouth, the jaws, and also move the tongue and do some movements in our throat and so forth. So these are all physical activities. Physical activities are done by the kaya viññati, not the vachi viññati. What the vachi viññati do is it articulates. When the sound is being articulated, it modifies it. It makes it the sound. It makes the sound to be in accordance with our intention. While I want to say go, instead of I pronounce the word go instead of the word come. So if my sound and my intentions does not match with each other, it creates a huge problem. So it has been the doctrine of necessity according to Buddhism that there is one sort of a rupa which regulates the nature of the sound. Regulating means not the level of the sound here I am talking. It's the nature of the sound. What sort of a letter is being uttered? What sort of word is being uttered? So that sound nature is regulated or controlled or modified by the vachi viññati. So it's mainly regarding the modification of the sound. It's not a bodily activity. It is a physical activity. It's not related to physical movement. Physical movement is always concerned with the kaya viññati. Kaya viññati makes the body to move. Without the kaya viññati, no movement is possible. So when we say change in the posture, we are referring to rupa kalapas with viññati, with kaya viññati, not the vachi viññati, right? Not the vachi viññati. Yes. So these are the highlighting points that I would like to emphasize. Now, this also opens another thing. Cannot draw, no? I shall erase this. The use of the digital board. Right. If we take three scenarios, this is the human body. Human body. In the first scenario, now when you want to make a movement, the intention is to make a movement. Chitta rupas arise with abundant vayu, which have a viññati, the relevant parts of the body, which makes the movement to this side. So what happens? We are moving towards the intended part, intended direction. For example, if I want to make a move the body starts to move. But then the question comes, I will be talking about this extensively in the Vachi Kaya Viññati lesson. While we are making a movement, while we are lifting the leg, the other leg has to be stiff. Otherwise, we cannot make a make the initial force in order to move, right? So when we are saying kaya viññatti is moving the limbs, it's relevant limbs, right? Not all, right? So there's no necessity of moving the head. Head naturally goes with it. Goes with when the body moves, right? There's no necessity of kaya viññatti happening in the kidneys at that moment, as far as I'm concerned. So only on a certain part gets this kaya viññatti rūpas. The other rūpas still may maintain the posture, but for example, when the process is going on, those rūpas may arise in different locations. So therefore, different rūpas may also, the maintaining posture rūpas may also arise on such occasions. But while someone is meditating, for an example, only those rūpas, for example, if someone is a jhana state, only the rūpas which can maintain the posture arise in the person. But while we are making a bodily movement, both types of rūpas are happening in us. Right? So then, while we are at sleep, a different type of rūpa, I'll draw it with a different sign. So these rūpas do not have the capacity to maintain the postures. Now think about while in a process, mind of 5 sense door process. If you are in bhavanga, this is how the body is working. Now think about the mind 5 sense door process. Panchadvara avajjana, chakku viññāna, sampaticcana, santirana, vottapana, 7 javanas, and tadalamana. So in such occasions, it is said these chittas can maintain the posture, number 2. Right? But this chitta doesn't produce any rūpa. They produce rūpas which cannot maintain the posture. Now think about a person while reading something. Now all the rūpas that happen in a santati, all the rūpas that happen in a one viti are called one chittaja santati. If you remember the last lesson, they are interconnected. Now all the rūpas that are produced by this viti are one santati. In that same santati, we have chittaja rūpas of different capacities. It means while some rūpas may maintain the posture at that moment, in that santati, some rūpas may maintain the posture, while some rūpas may not. During the santati is existing, right? While the santati is existing. So various types of rūpas are happening in the body. We can find it at any given time, right? At any given time. So likewise, if we think about this, we can understand how our body is functioning according to the Theravada teachings. So the takeaway message here is related to meditation. Our bodily postures are not maintained with our intention in most of the cases. It happens naturally through the physical process. When we are focused on something else, what happens? The bodily posture is still maintained. While when we are making a deliberate physical movement, even that is not done directly through the mind. It is done through the mind is producing some chitta rūpas with viññatti, and that viññatti is making and those rūpas with viññatti make the movement, which we will discuss later when we are talking about viññatti rūpas. While we are at sleep, why the body is falling down is not because of any atman is not capable. What happens according to teachings is those chittas do produce chitta rūpas, but those chitta rūpas doesn't have the capacity to maintain the posture. So this is how the bodily movements, the bodily activities can be looked into in terms of the Theravada teachings related to the chittaja rūpas. So I hope, I cannot go back to the previous chart. I hope you were able to write down or note down them. So this is how we categorize the chittaja rūpas in terms of their capacity and the chittas which produce them. right? So this is very, and always keep in mind when we are studying Chitta Rupas, it is the mind-body relationship that we are talking in terms of Theravada teachings, right? So it also opens to the doctrine that it's not the mind is controlling things, or mind is not the self or a predominant person. It's due to the mind some rupas are happening, and this physical process goes on, right? So that would be my lecture. Yeah, I give the forum to ask the question. Open the forum.
My question is actually, today what you did is a very clear explanation, even with old technology and very low level of support which you could get from that board. But you did an excellent explanation. My question is really about one aspect. Actually, there are two. One, when a person is meditating, his posture is maintained if he is really meditating without falling asleep. This is some observation that is made by few Kammatthanacharyas who are really concerned about the meditators. So actually, that is an area where some people even get cheated themselves. They think that they have seen the Nirodha when they fall asleep. Because while you are being seated, undergoing seated meditation, all of a sudden you lose
awareness.
track of your lose awareness, and then you regain it, and you think that you experienced Nirodha, but it is not Nirodha. That is only a matter of falling asleep. You have actually, indication is if your head has fallen down, obviously it's falling asleep. So this happens normally after a heavy lunch. And that's one question. The second is, what you said is very relevant, about the sleeping position, but all the time when we are sleeping, we are not only having Mahāvihāra, but sometimes we are having very deep Viti-Chitta. As a result of that, sometimes we see dreams, and one thing really happens is, though you see the dreams, you cannot move your lips. Sometimes you see you are attacking someone, but you can't. Sometimes you see you are beginning to walk or run or something like that, but it doesn't happen. You may fall from the bed. Obviously, the Vinyakti Rupas do not arise while you are sleeping. So that I figured out from your explanation, it is in line with what you said, the Vijittas may not be able to produce maintain posture, but not change the posture.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sometimes like while even in sleep, we may not be, some Viti-Chittas are dreaming. While dreaming, Viti-Chittas do arise. Otherwise, dream means a Viti-Chitta is occurring. So they may sometimes maintain the posture. If they are very weak, they may also not maintain the posture even. So that's why during the 5 sense door process, mind door processes, I also inserted the number 3 on some places, because in very weak states of the mind, still we may see the dream, but we may not maintain the posture. Obviously, they at that moment, while we are asleep, while we are dreaming, some changing posture is not possible in most of the cases. But we will study later on regarding emission of semen in the future lectures, that according to Vinaya, during dream supinanta, it is possible to change the posture in some occasions. So Buddha has given an anapattivara in that regard, saying that sometimes we do act in our dreams. So dreaming state is a very special moment in our life, in our day-to-day activities. It is neither a deep sleep, nor we are awake. In between, in Pali we call kapininda, like the sleep of a monkey, because monkey sleeps on a tree. It always holds his hand on something or leans to something. and it cannot fall into a deep sleep because if it falls, it may fall down from the tree. So it's in a very in between level. So a dream is also similar to that. We are coming into the we are seeing certain objects, and we are also going back to the bhavanga process in between. So this status may have a lot of varieties. In some occasions, very rarely, it is mentioned in Vinaya, bodily movements can happen if one does any wrong activity during sleep, especially emission of semen. This is an anapatti according to Buddha's teachings. Buddha said, no, he doesn't need any punishment for that. Then there are some occasions the bodily change postures are not maintained, bodily postures are not changed but maintained during the dream. And if the dreaming sleep consciousness is very, very weak, it may also produce something similar to that of bhavanga. It's like just consciousness is happening, nothing is maintained. So that's why I put number 3 in some of the consciousness within the parenthesis to show that the possibility is still there.
If no one else is asking a question, may I ask another? That is really about about the Vikichitta once again. Now, if you come to Kaya Vinyati, that Kaya Dvara Chitta Viti, especially now, let's say you are touching a flame. At that moment, you get burned. So you get the Kaya Vinyati, and at that moment, actually, your body doesn't move without really the skin touching the flame. So, so actually, if that was possible, probably the burning could have been avoided. But anyways, I believe that it's a very long process. It doesn't happen within one chitta-viti, but it may be several chitta-vitis that are occurring there to cause the movement away from the fire. Am I right?
Yes, that I will be teaching in the Vinyati lesson. There are many chitta-vitis happening in order for a one movement to happen. Many chitta-vitis happen.
Thank you very much. Theravada sir.
Yes, sir.
Venerable sir. My question is, when a sick person is when a sick person, a person who is not in good health or sick, and he tries his best to stand up. That is what we see when we are looking at him. But he failed to do so. That failure is because of even if he tries, he can't produce enough powerful Rūpas to keep up that position. Thinking in that way is correct.
I will be explaining this in the Vinyati lesson actually. Sometimes the Chittajirupas alone cannot do such activity. The physical body, the Uttajarupas also plays a huge role in our movements. So Chittajirupas need the support of Uttajarupas. The Uttajarupas should be in a proper structure, in a healthy condition in order to make physical movement. So in a person who is paralyzed normally, Chitta does arise, Chittajirupas do arise. But still the bodily movements can be done because of the defect of the physical body, which is attributed to Uttajarupas according to our teachings. So therefore, it's not that the Chitta is weak, or it's not that the Chittajirupas are weak on such occasions. In most of such cases, the Uttajarupas have gone into a bad state, so it doesn't facilitate the physical movement. So you will learn later that both the Rupas are involved practically in order to make the physical movement.
Thank you very much, I understand.
Okay, then I think there is no more questions, so we shall conclude the lecture. And next week I'll be talking about some specific activities such as smiling, crying, and singing, dancing, and playing music. So how these chittas are, what sort of chittas are performing such activity. Then I move on to the topic of breathing, which is also a very controversial topic within the Theravada teachings. I shall be talking it in detail, right? Okay. So I may conclude. Maybe this merit helps us to attain the final liberation and also for the sustaining of Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.